Hello and welcome to episode 199 of the Nerds at Large Gaming Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Darby Hallman.
I'm Jeff Mayo.
And things you might notice things are a little bit different this week. I honestly don't know what you're looking at yet. You're looking at
Yeah.
some beautiful piece of art that future Darby worked up.
Yep.
You'd be staring at.
Absolutely beautiful.
Absolutely
Whatever it is.
stunning, my magnum opus. And this is actually being done this way because, very sadly, I am a COVID positive boy. And it's a real big bummer. My biggest piece of advice is do everything you can possibly do to not get COVID because it kind of sucks.
And Darby's vaccinated.
And I'm vaccinated. Yeah, I'm having a very symptomatic COVID case, even with my vaccine. I'm sure it would have been worse without. So apologies for any coughing that will be done here, and any maybe low energy. We were probably not going to do a podcast, but I've been cooped up in my house, specifically in my room for so long. It's like I kind of want to do something kind of productive. So recording the podcast sounds a little nice right now. So we're gonna try to go forth and do it anyway. But just bear with us, obviously. But that being said, Jeffrey, we have some hot games to talk about that we've been
It's
playing.
true. Lots of stuff came out. September 10th was a day.
And your boys had a lot of time to play.
Yep. We got some stuff done. First one. Game I beat. Life is Strange True Colors.
Ooh, baby.
Came out. I beat that thing over last weekend. It is done. I'm completely caught up on Life is Strange goodness. The whole
Hell yeah.
series.
3 games now, right? Plus Captain Spirit.
Well, 4 games.
Oh yeah, before the storm. That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a bona fide franchise at this point.
Yeah. And what? Yeah, this is like the 4th mainline entry in like 5-6 years ish.
Wow,
Day 7. Yeah, something like that. Crazy.
that's wild. Well, Jeff, how do you think there's some different things going on with this one? Obviously, releasing all in one go. I'd say this is like maybe the most different power as far as I don't know. It's just like it kind of stands out in the grouping of like powers and everything. It's kind of going back towards one setting, like like settling into a town or whatever. So there's some things that are kind of going back to the old stuff, and then some things that are brand new. Like.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think it shook out?
I think it is fantastic, Darby. It's kind of weird because with especially since I have just played 2 recently, you can definitely tell and partly because of different developers, the different mindsets as far as like this game structurally and all that. The fact that 2 and 1 and stuff were episodic, where they released episodes months apart, while this one was here's everything at once. Because I think a big thing is with the way True Colors is separated. There are still 5 chapters, just like all the other 2 main quote unquote Life is Strange games, but I would say they differ in length a little more. Like it seemed for like 2, it seemed like they all tried to hit the 3 to 4 hour mark, roughly. If not maybe a little longer. While these chapters seem to be like, we just have an idea what we want to do for this chapter, and when it's done, it's done.
Yeah, probably treating it more as just like one thing they're making. They don't have to worry about all the different parts of it being equal. Yeah.
Yeah, which I think it kind of this being a one game or whatever, just releasing all at once, does contribute to this, which is kind of it's a weird thing because I enjoy my time with it and everything, but it's kind of like I wanted more. Is how long it took to beat the game, which I think I probably did it. I've seen people say roughly 10ish hours, and that feels right based on how long it took me to beat it. Honestly, should have checked my PS5 for that. While the Life is Strange 1 and 2 probably took closer to 15, 16 plus hours. I think Before the Storm was probably roughly the same as True Colors, which goes into the fact, some complaints my people have about the link, because this is the first Life is Strange that is a full $60 game, but is also the shortest.
I honestly didn't even know the other ones weren't. I kind of forgot about that.
Yeah, I think Life is Strange 2 is like $40, while Life is Strange 1 it was either 20 or $30.
Oh well.
I think.
Well, and
then,
you did say. I mean, obviously, we're gonna get to all the glowing positive things, but you did say that you wished it was a little longer, right?
yes, just because I'm talking about it positive. I love these characters. This I think might be the strongest overall cast in a Life is Strange games in any of them. I think Alex Shin is the best protagonist for them. So it's kind of more. I wish there's more time with them. There were some things where it's like the relationship with these characters. There are little time skips in between chapters. You can kind of fill up some things, like see like what happened in those gaps by looking at Alex's like text messages, and they have like a Facebook or Twitter equivalent that people post on, so you can kind of see the townspeople's interactions with each other and all that kind of stuff, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I just kind of wish there was more of that stuff on, like, actually playable or that you see, especially since it's a shorter game.
Yeah, it's a weird thing where like I think this kind of shows that the other games almost got more than a game's development cycle, or at least what don't I consider as a game's development cycle, just because they kept pushing it down the road, so they probably just kept making more things for it. And it just ballooned into a bigger project, and they might not know exactly how to condense that down into one game, like maybe.
Yeah, and again, like comparing it to Life is Strange 2, Life is Strange 2, because of the traveling aspect, was kind of like there's still an overarching story, but kind of felt like it was fitting its own story into each one of the chapters, while this thing was kind of while they are different, like each chapter had its own things going on, it was still more focused on the overarching story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, tell me about the story and this power and everything, because I think we were all like, I wouldn't say skeptical, because like I fully expected once you got in the game for it to click and make sense, but it was not like the most flashy, easy to understand power,
No, and I feel for the developers, because after playing the game, I get it, and I think because me and you got into Life is Strange 1 after the fact, so we didn't. I mean, well, I guess I can't speak for both of us, but I at least didn't see how the marketing went, so I don't know how that compared to this. Because honestly, this power really does remind me of Max's in a lot of ways, as far as like what the purpose of it and what you get out of it is. Since what the power is to feel the emotions of the people, and they call it the power of empathy, which they could have come up with a better name, because especially with the way they promote it was like, so she just kind of understands people a little more, okay, but it's more to that, to the point where people can when they feel something strong enough, she can pretty much read their minds.
Right, yeah,
so
it's basically mind reading with a different bow on it.
Yeah. So it's kind of as far as like gameplay rise and for the structure of the game, it's kind of similar to Max's, where instead, Life is Strange 1 with Max, you can rewind time, so you can look through the options, all the dialogue options, and kind of see how they feel, and then go with the best one. Here, it can be kind of similar, where you're reading people's like the way they feel, so you can use that to, decide what dialogue option you want to go to, or doing it like in Life is Strange 1, doing all this stuff can unlock different dialogue choices, whether it be for that particular character who you're reading or for another character. Because there were times where I read the emotions of one character, figure out how they were feeling, and I was able to give advice to another character based on that, to let them know like what I think would be the best way to talk to them.
Right. So it definitely seems like it's kind of similar to Max's. It's more of a storytelling oriented power, less than Life is Strange 2 was like a I mean, he had a physical, what could be an MCU superpower, you know?
Yes. You're crazy with that shit. Yeah, it's more like Max's, where it's less in your face, at least towards the other characters.
Yeah.
Though there are some things where they kind of hint at where you can directly influence their emotions, and the game kind of tries to talk you into, okay, you can do this at certain spots, but is it a good idea? And after playing the game, it's like, yeah, you might want to think about when that choice comes up, when and where to use it, without going into it. There are times where there's definitely good to do it, and times when it's really, really bad to do it.
Yeah, so how do you think this game handles the choices and different branching paths? Did you feel like that was influential? Did you have that Life is Strange thing where you got to the end and it's like 20% of people did this and you're like, what the fuck? What's this?
I got a little bit of that. There were definitely some things I missed. I think in like a lot of these games, it kind of feels like your choices might matter more than it does in the end.
Mm-hmm.
But there is like some stuff in the final where, okay, it definitely influenced how characters felt about Alex in the end more than anything. And I feel like, and I mean this in a good way, there might be a couple of them where it's not as strong, where it's not as obvious. Like, you think doing this might be the best thing for the character, but the character may not feel the same way at the end of the game.
Gotcha.
And yeah, kind of did that there. And now, obviously I'm not going to go into details of it, but after getting finished with it and seeing how some characters reacted to things, look back, it's like, okay, this stuff kind of makes sense. There is one in particular, again, not going to say what it is, where I've seen people online still don't know how, like, the choices you made influence a particular part of the end, and I'm curious to find out that. It seems to be, like, as far as Life is Strange goes, the most, like, not obvious. Most mysterious.
Interesting. Okay.
It came out good for me, which I'm really glad, because if it didn't, it would make me very sad.
So is there more than just the binary choice at the end?
There is a binary choice at the end. It's honestly, as far as the endings go, I think 2's is the best. As far as regardless of how the actual endings go, 2 has the most different of it, and not necessarily a choice as far as the final ending. Right. Where 2, you can make choices at the end, but the choices you made throughout the game more directly influences the end of that, because, again, without going into it, and 2, how you interact with Daniel, your brother, will influence it, because you make a choice at the end, and he may or may not go with it.
Right.
So, and that branches out into a couple vastly different endings.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I mean, you saying this is the strongest cast, that is very high praise for a series that is so known for its cast of characters.
Yeah, I really love these characters, and I think I obviously love the other cast. I loved 1 and all that, but it was kind of felt good, even though they're kind of young adult and still can be immature-ish in a way. The fact that the vast majority of the cast were adults is kind of a nice change of pace, where everyone's an adult in this town, all that kind of stuff. You can make the argument that the town might be in some ways too perfect. Haven Springs is too perfect, because it's like, this seems like a great place to live, but it was just a nice, jolly, cozy vibes all around. And it was like, I mentioned the social media stuff. It was just kind of cool just reading that when stuff popped up and seeing how people were interacting with each other through the social media, because there were some, obviously the main NPCs, but there are a couple non-important, more generic NPCs. But I saw them interacting with other characters on the social media thing. I'm like, oh, I know exactly who you are and where you were. Like, I've seen you around. And that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
And obviously, I'll mention this since they say this during the trailers and stuff. Your romance Steph or Ryan. I did Steph, of course.
Of course.
She is such a delight. She is a fun, dorky being. I like Ryan a lot more than I thought, but it's hard to beat Steph.
But yeah, come on. We're here for our queer romance, and you're not gonna take your place.
There's a couple other things as far as like graphics and like how the game looks. I think the game looked beautiful and stuff. The town of Haven Springs is like it's a very colorful town and very cool. And as far as the character models, at least for like the main ones, huge upgrade.
Nice.
Like some of the like face, like you like to mention like the facial acting for these models in games. Like Alex's in some places was absolutely phenomenal.
That's awesome. I mean that even really great games can have pretty bad facial acting, so that's
yeah,
a big plus.
Yeah, and obviously it's not all across the board. Some of the lesser characters will have worse, but Alex's was great, and the voice acting for the major characters and overall is very good.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else. Oh yeah, and glitches and stuff. I know that's something people have talked about. Luckily, I didn't see too many. I did have it crash on me once, and 2 other times, I did have Alex randomly T-pose during a scene.
Hell yeah.
And a little boy that was phasing through the bar.
But it's like, is this part of it? Is this his power? Does he have a power?
Yep. And yeah, I guess overall story stuff. Again, not gonna go into spoilers. Liked it overall. A nice little mystery. We haven't touched on that at all.
No, yeah.
I may not say into, and just in case some people didn't watch the trailers or anything going into it blind, because I have seen some people not getting the game and not knowing it. So I'll leave that surprise there for you. But it was very entertaining all the way through, even if it wasn't always the main focus. And that could obviously could be a criticism of the game for sure, where because of the shortened length, maybe I mentioned not getting enough time with the characters. You may not get as much time as you would want with the actual mystery of it. But I thought overall they did a good job, though it definitely did feel a little rushed towards the end during the last chapter or so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably. I mean, it sounds like that's everyone's like main criticism. I mean, yeah, everyone I've seen still loves the game, but like, if there's one thing that Deck 9 should maybe take going into the next one, it's that like, if you're gonna do the just all one go thing, you still need to make it somewhat comparable to what you were offering before.
Yeah.
Or at least as long as the story needs. It sounds like the story might have needed more time. Not just, But awesome. I really need to play Life is Strange 2 and then get to this. You
do.
Both seem very, very good. I'm sure if I started, I would just sink right back into it.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of sinking right back into a familiar franchise. How about Tales of Arise, Jeffrey?
Let's go!
Both me and you have been playing it. It is finally here. I'm playing it on my PC. It's a new age. JRPGs are coming out on the PC at launch. It's pretty cool. And I'll start because you just had to go for a long time with Life is Strange. And I am actually further than Jeff. This will probably be like the last time that's true, but I have a little further than Jeff now. I have beaten the second area of Tales of Arise, the second major boss. Out of 5, it seems like 5 major bosses that they're kind of talking
set
about.
Up in the beginning, but this is the Tales game.
Exactly.
So it's probably like 20 hours plus after that.
Oh, I'm sure. I feel very confident that. And I am really, really enjoying my time. I mean, in so many ways, I think this is exactly what we were thinking / hoping that it would be, where it's Tales finally getting the budget and finally moving into the modern age. But I mean, that makes it sound like it's the bare minimum. I think they've gone further than that in some ways. I think the art style is gorgeous. The music, I think, is even taking a step up. And just a lot of areas of the production value, and I think the combat system and everything else is also while it's definitely still Tales, I think it has taken a pretty big step up and feels deeper and feels like I mean something that I'm less button mashing and more actually thinking, like trying to think
Oh, if you're
through.
just button mashing, you're gonna get killed in this game.
Right, and I don't think that's necessarily completely true for a lot of the other Tales games. Like maybe the boss fights, there's like certain times where you kind of have to, but definitely not to this level. I don't think.
Yeah, even some of the normal enemies, unless you just really grind, if you're not really thinking, you're gonna get stomped.
Yes, but also I just feel like things like comboing things together and everything is a lot more satisfying and a lot more varied in this game than the other Tales games, where I feel like you're kind of doing a lot of the same arts over and over again before. Here, it's kind of fun to mix around arts and like see, oh, this one pairs into this one, which pairs into this one, and then I'll get another one. And it's like, oh, I can start with that one and then go into my normal combo. So there's a lot of like mixing and matching you can do there,
Yeah, and you can expand it because obviously you get more arts, and then you get your AG or whatever it's called meter thing up, so you can just combo more arts in a row. Just opens up more stuff.
Yes. Hold on. I think Streamlabs might have frozen.
How dare it?
A lot of trouble with this right now. Maybe just pause your time. Well, we're back. Okay, pause your timer. I'm gonna see if it kept the audio for that little bit that was frozen. Okay, hi, we're back. Tales.
Boop, boop. Tales.
Tales of Arise. Yeah, so I just generally think the combat system, I think you agree that is just, this is a pretty big step up.
Yeah, generally as a whole, I'm curious to see because weirdly enough, I don't talk about this. I kind of do mention it in this breath, but not as much. Like Tales of Graces, I think I'm curious to see how I feel about it in this stacks up. Tales of Graces as the best combat because it is more similar to this, where it kind of has like crazy combo and just see how you can float things into it. But generally speaking, yeah, between the last couple, this is definitely a step up. And like you said, graphically, even like the music and all that kind of stuff, is a step up. And makes sense considering it was no more than 2 years in between any Tales game or something like that before this one, and it's been 5 years since Berseria.
Well, I mean, it kind of looks like a bit. Is it true that it is the same engine from Vesperia till Berseria, and they just did more with it?
I'm honestly not 100% sure about that.
Either way, they just
I'm not saying I'd be surprised, but
I mean, all you need to know is that Berseria came out on the PS3. That's all you really need to know about that.
Yeah.
To know just how dated this franchise was, and I think it was hitting a plateau. It was just never gonna really surpass the fans that it had if it didn't make this move. Like it was time.
There's definitely the smart move, and I'll just throw this in right here. It seems to be working so far because it's already hit 1 million shipped in digital sales, which is outpacing all previous Tales games by a fair margin. It got to 60,000, I think, concurrent players on Steam, which is far more than all other Tales games on Steam top concurrent players combined. And again, for context, people who don't know, Tales, the top-selling Tales game is probably Vesperia between its original release and its definitive edition release a year or two back, and that's probably 2.6-ish million.
Yep.
So
like that,
it's probably already halfway there. So it's going to surpass it.
That marketing and budget, that's what they can do for you.
And it's the top, in America, the top reviewed Tales game. So again, it's all working for it.
Yeah, it seems like they did everything right, and this is another one I'm gonna gush about this a lot, so I kind of want to get some of my quote unquote negatives out of the way, because I don't think I have too many true negatives about this game, but I do, and I'm interested to see if you feel at all the same way. I do feel like when I'm playing it, I kind of wish that they had taken this opportunity where they improved so many parts about this franchise and everything in so many areas. I kind of wish that they had taken that opportunity to change the game design a little bit more. Because it does still feel very Tales, even in the like somewhat bad way. Like there are times when you're going through environments where, and the Tales games have always felt this way, where like it's just a very obviously video game environment where this is corridor with random loot, thrown out places. It's like, you just like get into this rhythm of just like walk down hallway, there's gonna be a chest. Walk down this other hallway, chest, and enemy.
You can look at the map and know where the non-main path is to get some nice, sweet treasure.
You could literally navigate the world without looking at the game. You could just watch the mini map, and it's just a very predictable, like, it's just a very video gamey thing or whatever. And there are definitely times, especially when I'm just going through like the areas in between areas and stuff, where I'm like, this feels like a Tales game with a prettier skin. It doesn't really feel like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel like it took that next step and everything in those ways. And then there's just other times with like some of the side story writing. I mean, it's no worse than it was in other Tales games, but that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that like there's things like in Final Fantasy VII Remake has those bad that bad side dialogue too, but like there are times for Final Fantasy VII Remakes it's like, oh, not only did you put the budget into the visuals and everything, you also put like big effort into making these characters sound completely believable, and like the actual prose, the dialogue writing to be like, Uncharted Naughty Dog level stuff at times. I kind of wish I got like, I'm not even saying it needs to be at that level, but like there are definitely times where I'm like, okay, this feels too much like Tales when I was kind of hoping for something a little bit more. Again, I feel this way kind of, but it's not enough to maybe. Yeah. What did you think?
I think it's an improvement in this area. I can't agree. Like it may not be as much as we wanted, but it is this kind of. You look at where they improved on and everything, and maybe not everything like individually is as much as an improvement as you would like in each individual area, but as a whole, it's kind of like this is a big step up in a lot of ways, and this is just a big. I think for a Tales game, a big undertaking and all that. Especially like you compare it to Final Fantasy VII, I think that's fair. But that game had like a bigger budget and all that for sure, and they that game's going to sell more copies, which obviously influences budget and all that.
Yeah,
and as far as the side stuff, I agree with you. Like that definitely is not really a step up from past Tales game, but at least with this, I feel like there's less of it, so it's not as big of a deal, and I don't feel like so far the side missions are a big pain. And I feel like I'm also getting more rewarded for each of these side things.
I mean, to be honest, I started skipping them. I kind of was crit pathing at some point. Like, I definitely, in like the second area, I was like, I don't really care about y'all's things, and just kind of like pass by them. Because
there's so few of them, and the rewards are actually pretty sweet, especially when I feel like money is scarce, and with the SP and stuff, the stuff you can gain from that is very good. So. You get a good chunk of it from doing that.
Yeah,
so I think it's worth it
for sure. There's just times with the writing, there are times, and we'll get to the story in general, where like I think overall it does its job and I am interested, but there are definitely times where I'm just kind of eye rolling more than I'm like, okay, we gotta like stop and do it's just like, or it's like very clear that it's like, okay, we have dropped down from the main writers to the interns or something, where it's like, okay, this what is actually being portrayed here. It's just like a very simple ideas and very simple jokes or something, and then you kind of go back to the main writing. It's like, okay, this can be kind of good again. It's like you definitely drop down into a tier with that. Yeah, which can just get a little bit annoying. And the other, before we just get into all positives, I have not been a big fan of the skits so far, and I think that they have not really like portrayed the characters as well as some other Tales games has.
I can agree with that. It's kind of weird where I feel like the skits in this one like in comparison, are more informative of the world.
In too much of a way. It's like exposition.
Yeah, but not as much fun as previous ones, for sure. Like, I don't know how much of a hot take this is, honestly. I think you feel the same way. I would much prefer, like, if they were going to keep anything from previous tales, just the way old skits were with the animated version of them instead of the models.
I agree. Because I think it's.
I mean, the models are undoubtedly better, so it works better like than if they did in the past games. But I think there was just a certain charm. Like, you know, we can criticize like other parts of old Tales games that needed to evolve. I feel like that because those skits just had a charm to it that I feel like is kind of missing from it.
I mean, I think those skip that sprite art. Honestly, overall, like it has its own thing, and I think it looks better in a different way, obviously, than these things. And it's like we have like this Tales game has something the other ones didn't, where it actually has some acted out, like in-engine acted out scenes. Whereas the other Tales games, I guess they tried to do that, but it was like really bad, obviously, and most
animations, like, you know, time off face stuff, like the best anything, but in just model work and stuff, it's a giant step up from Berseria.
Right, exactly. And I think just having that was enough that they could have just done sprites for the skits, and it's not like we're missing out because you have plenty of. Yeah, I agree. But it's not just the visuals. Like I think it's also like. I don't know. I think it's a compounding thing with a lot of things, but this is the first Tales game where these skits have felt like homework to me. You know, it's felt like when I press RB, they do a skit, it ends, and I'm like, all right, let's go, and another one pops up. I'm like, okay, I guess. I mean, I haven't skipped any, but I definitely have felt like, oh god, okay. You know, it's like, and that's a little bit of a bummer. That like usually, like when I think back to Zillia, I loved all of those and everything. So, but. That aside, I am really liking it, and I think even though the game started very, very slow, I think in the second area especially, it's starting to go some places that I think is pretty interesting. It's a very dark story. It's very dark.
Yeah, in comparison to other Tales games in general, yeah. Well, I think in general, yeah, it might be slow compared to other games, but I feel like compared to some Tales games, it's kind of started, you know, kind of more places because you kind of quickly get, okay, they're slaves, and then you kind of, I think in comparison, quickly get to, okay, we're about to overthrow this dude.
Yeah, I suppose like a lot of things were happening, like big things were happening right off the gate. I guess it's personal investment. I didn't feel invested until very recently. Like I think it started slow as far as like giving me reasons to care about these characters. We got there.
It's because we're skits. If they had the skits.
That's right, Joe.
I mean, for real though.
I mean, honestly, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So I guess it is weird. It technically is not slow in the sense that like right off the bat, you're like leading a slave rebellion. Basically, it's like a lot of things are happening, but. I didn't really feel like, and I guess you haven't gotten to some of the things that I'm referring to, but there's definitely like the last little bit that I've played has been like, okay, we're off to the races. I care about these characters a lot and stuff now, which.
Well, and I like it so far because I don't mind saying this is a thing because it quickly gets into it that there's all the different realms and all the Danans are slaves to the Renans. And you're pretty much, the story makes it pretty clear, like, okay, you're gonna defeat all the lords in all 5 of these realms and do it. And I'm curious to see how the other ones do it. I like how they quickly show up, at least between the first 2 realms, that despite them all kind of being slaves and lower class and everything, the way it works is different. So I'm just kind of, glad to quickly see that, okay, besides the visually how each area is going to look, the hierarchy or how the place is worked might be a little different.
Yeah, and I'm hoping it's not just gonna be desolate. Like these people are horrible, and they're enslaving these other people like for 5 areas straight of just like.
I mentioned to you, like I can see this happening. I want it actually, where one of the places the people are actually kind of happy.
Yeah,
and they're gathering the astral energy that way. They found out, oh, this actually really works.
Yeah, and they might have to
like that.
That would be an interesting thing to wrestle with, where it's like well, everyone else of all the other like areas of your people are awful. So like if you're it's almost like if you don't do anything about it, you're just as bad. I don't know. It could be. There's
Yeah.
definitely times where the writing of Tales of Arise feels shallow, feels very
Mhm.
shallow and just like basic or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really know. But then those surprise me with a turn in the story or a certain line of dialogue where I'm like, okay, shit, that was y'all are handling some heady stuff with some intrigue. So like it's a mixed bag, and I think that probably just comes from a smaller writing team that like maybe has like some really good people and some not as good, whatever. It feels a little inconsistent. That doesn't make it bad. It just makes it's not like a you know 10 out of
Yeah.
10. It's just like I think it hits more than it misses, but it does miss. Is basically what I'm
Mhm.
getting at.
I feel you.
Yes. But I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I'm sure
Mhm.
still very early. I obviously only have 4 of 6 party members, so
True, and I'm very curious about them because I'm just going to assume they're Renans.
I think that would be interesting for the story, Taylor. Sure.
Yeah. And again, as I mentioned to Darby last night. I think it was last night, off mic, that Tails likes it's kind of half and half. Like, but I'll use Berseria as an example. Well, they like to have it like half men, half women, which I appreciate, obviously. And then like last Berseria had it like half demons, half non-demons, pretty much.
Well, didn't Justeria also have that with the half ghost people, half regular people? Or I can't remember.
It wasn't exactly half and half, but yeah, it did have kind of the split between
Yeah.
Rose and Saray, and then the rest of the.
Okay, yeah.
I forgot what they call him in there, but the Malakim. So they call him in Berseria.
Seraph son of
Seraphine.
Seraphine.
Yeah.
That's the League of Legends character.
Yep. I don't know. Alrighty, Darby. Let us move on to Warioware. Get it together.
When is Wario just gonna get it together? We're all waiting. Just get.
He has his own successful gaming company. He's already got it together, more than we do.
That's true. True.
So this game opens up where Wario and all of his lovely friends are making a game together. They get it done, and then naturally the video game is bugged and sucks them all in, turning them into chibi versions of themselves.
Of course.
Yes, and you got to go through the game, get rid of the bugs, by playing micro games with all these lovely characters. And yeah, I beat the story mode for this game. Haven't done too much more than that. The story mode is actually only 2 hours, roughly. Um, but WarioWare is one of those games where, and the game says it itself, you beat the story, but the game has just begun, which is true. The point of WarioWare in general is to replay the stuff, beat scores and all that, and just improve. And I feel like the setup for this game, or like the gimmicks for this game, does that very well, or it makes me feel good about the longevity of this game as far as keeping people interested, because it has a cast of, well, I'm not sure how many characters actually, somewhere between 15 and 20, I think, characters that are playable in it, and they all work completely different. So the way they interact with individual microgames are completely different, and some of them make some of these a cakewalk, and some of them I feel are about impossible unless you know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because people don't know with WarioWare, it just kind of you're like in this little menu, it's like, and then you go through a portal, and it's like tells you what to do, and you got to quickly figure out what you're supposed to do. Which, if you play the games enough, you know what to do. But sometimes, depending on the character, you got to also figure out how to beat it with that character.
Yeah, it's
Because
all
with their
about speed of just like how quick can you understand the rules and go.
pretty much, and I watched Easy Allies do, and it was kind of funny. Just like they had no idea what to do, and it's just a joy to watch. Like, how are we supposed to do that? It's like it told you how to do it. That's kind of fun.
It's kind of one of those like if you mess up, it's like oh well, move on. Like,
Yep. Pretty much, you have lives for like each individual thing or that, but yeah, it just quickly like you fail. Like, okay, gotta get over it. You're about to move on. into the next one. And
Swallow
something
your
I really like
pride.
about the story mode is each like individual section starts with like a cutscene, animated cutscene thing for the characters, which are kind of fun. Just doing wacky things that introduce you to kind of or reintroduce you or whatever to the background of these characters and what their particular quirk is. It was kind of fun.
Yeah, so do you feel like so I guess were you satisfied with the main story? Does the main story just feel like an introduction to Warioware and then you're supposed to go do the other things?
Pretty much, and and honestly, that is the. I haven't played all the Warrior games. It's been a while since I played one, but from when reading other people's things, and I kind of expected this. That's kind of the point of the quote unquote story mode in every WarioWare game.
Okay.
Is to kind of introduce you to it and kind of unlock levels and kind of ease you into it until you can go and do what's technically the main bulk of the game. This is not a game that's for everyone because this is kind of replaying the same micro games and going for high scores and all that kind of stuff. Especially since these micro games, like I've seen some people get to apparently like 1,000 in a row or something. Each micro game has like at least I think 3 levels of difficulty, where you just got more stuff you need to do, or whatever it is harder, and also it's faster. Like the time you have to do it is much shorter, so you gotta get going.
Gotcha.
And as far as and what makes this game also different, besides the characters, which like I said, is a great addition, is the co-op of this. So you can do like the normal WarioWare thing with 2 people, and it changes things because again, the Easy Ally stream. There are some games where having 2 people completely mess them up. They were on 2 different wavelengths, so
Yeah.
the other one person technically did what they're supposed to do, but then the other person undid it.
I can definitely see that with how fast it is. I mean, the
Mhm.
games are almost designed for you're gonna mess up a lot of these because of just how quick you have to figure it out. So you have to roll the dice for both of you to figure it out.
Yep. And also, what's kind of going to be fun for like us and our friends is after you beat the story mode, you pretty much unlock all the other modes after you beat the story mode. Like you're supposed to do that first. There's no skipping the story mode and getting to everything else. You have to beat it. But then you unlock like all the different party modes, which I've heard are fun.
Yeah.
And there's like over half a dozen. I think there's about like 10 different multiplayer modes.
And so the central gimmick of this game is the different characters, and you seem to
Yes,
really think that really does change the game up a lot.
I do. Because the other games you just kind of like press buttons and it does stuff on it, like move them, whatever, and it just kind of does stuff. But yeah, since you control the characters and interacting through that, it completely changes the way you think about the game compared to past WarioWare games. And I think it's a great addition to it.
That's awesome. I mean,
Yep.
this game seems like it would be a lot of fun with the 2-player thing. I definitely want to try that out. I don't really know if it's a game I would play by myself, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm certainly interested in that.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how much time I can do. I think I will get a good bit of time into it, but some people get obsessed with it and put like hundreds of hours into it. It's like one of those kind of games. I don't expect me to do that, but I expect to play a good amount. And obviously, yeah, like playing with you and friends for the party modes, I think will be a lot of fun because we put it's a little different. It was a little different, but we put a good bit of time into Game and Wario when I had that on the Wii U.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
So I mean, is it one of those things that you feel like there are still a lot of micro games you haven't seen, or do you feel like
Oh
you've seen
yes.
them?
You have a game like I think it's actually called the Gamepedia or something like that afterwards. So you can go to each of the different kind of games. There are different sections. Like there's a Nintendo Retro section for the games, or animal games, or lifestyle games, or culture games. And you can click on that, and it shows you all the games you have seen, and you can play those games anytime after you've seen them. And it has the question mark blocks forever, or however many you haven't seen. And I probably haven't seen over half of them at this point. I
Nice.
don't think.
Yeah.
So
Switch
there's
Swamp.
still a lot of them that I have not seen yet.
Sweet. Well, cool. Yeah. Sorry, I don't have a whole lot to say about it, but like, seems like it's just like does everything that Warioware has done great, but the different character ability sounds like it adds a crazy different element, especially since it sounds like they went out there for different type of character designs. Like,
Yeah, they're very weird, but there are definitely some where they are just kind of a slightly modified version of them or of another one. That they kind of do similar things, but potentially better. I guess depending how you look at it and depending on the game. And there's definitely feels like a tier list for some of them. There are some characters just these are just plain out probably overall a lot better than other ones, and some of them that are just bottom tier, no questions asked. And there's some like kind of the middle is like if you can get the hang of them, they're really good and versatile, or they're very good for certain kind of games. I don't want to spoil it because there are actually a couple characters that they don't promote at all that are very cool, but they are very out there and are very interesting. But I won't say it here to spoil it because I do think that's kind of the fun of it, like unlocking these characters and seeing exactly what they do. But 5 volt, 9 volts mom, the mom from the gamer stage in Smash Bros. Her ability is very. I did not see her ability coming in, and it's great.
Awesome. Hell yeah. Alright, well, Jeff, big train, keep on rolling. You got one more.
I do have one more. I talked about this game probably like 6 months ago at this point, but I got done with it a little bit back. Kind of kept forgetting to talk about it. Everything was going on. But I have finished Gnosia. For people who don't know what that is or completely forgot what that was, it is a single-player social deduction game, kind of like Village of Salem or whatever, and Werewolf and the like, where you are a character, you name your character or whatever, and you got about a dozen-ish people that can come in and out and decide who are the Gnosia, which are aliens that kind of insert themselves into people's body to kind of kill you and take over the ship. And this is like a time loop game where after each section, the game kind of resets and different people are the Gnosia. And you can also be the Gnosia. So different games, you're either trying to figure out who the person is, who the Gnosia are, or you are the Gnosia and you're trying to kill everyone but not get caught.
Right. So what'd you think? How did the ship end? Because like last time I talked to you, it was just like random weird story stuff would happen in random runs, and it was very strange. So I'm very curious to see what became of that.
I'm not going to get into the actual story. So I think. Like I know I've explained like Danganronpa and No More Heroes and stuff in here, but even though those took a while, I don't know in a way I could explain what happened during this game even if I tried, and I don't want to get people want to play it because I do think this is a game worth trying. This is a game that's not going to be for everyone, no way. But if you're into this, which I am, you're gonna love it. It's like a love it or hate it kind of thing, and I absolutely love this game.
Okay, so you were
it's
satisfied.
It's kind of thing where with the loops that it. Unfortunately, it is a potential criticism of the game, and it just depends on the person. Where depending on how good you do, partly the loops may not have as much different in between them as you would like. And I try to overthink things. You know how I am in these social deduction games, Darby.
We played them with friends. The least surprising
I overthink things. Yeah. So each loop for me probably took longer than an average, so it took me a little longer, so I just kind of chip my way at it so I don't get burnt out on it. And at least for me, that was the right way to go.
Yeah. Without spoilers, I mean, did it have like a story into it?
It did, and it was insane.
Nice.
It was pretty crazy and interesting, and these characters are great. I would say like as far as the game. How you progress in the gameplay or how the story progresses because it is a time loop. The way it works is every once in a while you'll get character scenes where it tells you more about these characters. You have like a notebook kind of thing where you got to fill out all these facts about the characters, and only once you fill it out for every character can you end the game. Like, does the game end? And
Return
to
of
do
the
that, it can be pretty insane and maybe a little frustrating because some of the stuff is kind of like, oh, you are both Gnosia, and you both have to survive to the end. And this character might be one of the worst at surviving. So you have to try your darndest to make sure they don't get voted out, while you also don't get voted out.
They're this bumbling idiot.
Yeah. Luckily, there is I forget what it's called. It's like I think it's called like an event finder, where you can kind of just select it and it will get you to an event. So you're not just like randomly starting a loop and hoping to get something. It will kind of find it for you, so you're not just hopelessly going through these loops for no reason.
Right. Well, cool. I'm glad that ended up. I was just very curious. I kind of want to know how it ended, so maybe just tell me off.
I don't know how to
mic.
explain it, Darby. It's crazy. Yeah. Also, Setsu best girl. I think they're non-binary, so.
Hell yeah.
Setsu best person.
Is she the one making the crazy face on the cover? Or is she a different one?
No, she is not.
Okay.
Oh, but there is something crazy about the crazy stuff about the character. Maybe I can't explain some of it to you, but I can't go over it.
Is she
I'll try
to. Can you romance the dolphin?
Oh, no, not really. I think there was maybe one thing where you can kind of hit on her. I can't remember. But she's also like 5, a dolphin year, so I don't know.
Well, maybe we'll be able to romance Thor in the new God of War. Let's get into the news, Jeff. News jingle.
Jingle, jingle, jangle. Yep, for the news this week, we're a week late for this, but, not much happened actually these past weeks, so we're just talking about the Sony PlayStation Presents whatever the fuck it's called. So we're going to go over the big shit. Like Darby said, God of War Ragnarok, Darby. We finally saw gameplay of it. They finally confirmed that Ragnarok's the actual name, despite denying it for a year. Yeah.
Lying to us. I think it looks pretty darn sweet.
It does.
It's a hot take.
Yeah, and what I wish this was just how they announced it, and not that damn teaser a year ago.
Yeah.
Because I think this is like the kind of perfect kind of announcement thing. Because, well, like with the God of War 2018 announcement, it just fades in on Kratos. It's like you know what it is.
We know what we're doing.
And this is one of those trailers I love, to where it just shows you a bunch of stuff, a bunch of scenes where it just looks really cool, so you get you excited that way. But if you pay attention, there's just a bunch of little hints and all that kind of stuff to get you really excited for different things. Whether it be, hey, Freya's trying to kill you, or look at all these new kind of enemies we're throwing at you, and town.
Yeah, from everything, it was like it showed just enough story stuff to like have things to latch on to, like Freya, and obviously Thor and Odin coming after you and seeing Thor and everything, like enough to make me very interested and have something to latch onto the story. But I also still don't really know what the story is. It's not like it's spoiled to me at all. But then, and it also showed enough gameplay to be like, yep, it's the God of War you remember, but there's like new enemies and everything like that. There's like some more like Blades of Chaos stuff, and like not like jumping down, doing jump attacks and things like that. But then also like the just environments and everything. It was like right when you think like, oh, maybe it looks kind of samey, it like goes into that town. It's like, okay, we didn't see anything like that in Ragnarok. I mean, God of War 2018.
Oh no, it's like if we looked from that section, we probably saw more people there than we did in the whole last game.
Yeah, exactly. And it just looks like the environments look so like vibrant and like lots of people living. It almost looked like Red Dead Redemption levels of like just people going about their normal lives, and looks really cool. And
yeah, considering this has a giant ass budget, it'll work out, and obviously it'll look amazing. But it is a slight bummer, since I have a PS5, the fact this is cross-gen, so it is going to be held back slightly.
Yeah,
at the very least.
Yes, but I'm just so interested because this is also obviously one of my top video game stories of all time with that 2018 one. So just to see where this goes. like obviously I'm excited about the gameplay and all that other stuff too, but I also just want to know what the hell happens because.
Yeah, and I do like I meant when I mentioned there's just stuff in the trailer to hint at things if you're really paying attention. I liked how, as someone who doesn't know about Norse stuff that much, people being like, oh, this handing out a whole bunch of different Norse stuff. Like, I don't know if you caught on this, Darby. I think I'm getting a lot of stuff from Isla Hink from Easy Allies mentioning stuff primarily,
Yes.
but in the beginning of the trailer when Atreus comes in with the deer in the shadow, he's wearing is looking like he's wearing a horn helmet like Loki has.
Oh, nice.
And also a very cool thing, people point out is like, oh, the beginning of last game was Kratos teaching Atreus how to hunt a deer, and now this game it was like at least close to the beginning of Atreus is bringing a deer on his own.
Nice. Growth! It's growth,
Yep.
baby! Yeah, no, I'm so excited to see. Yeah, God, especially just now knowing that he's Loki and just like where they're gonna go with that, it's just wild. It's gonna be so cool.
Yeah.
It's gonna.
And and I feel like we'll have to see how they stick the landing, and I have no doubt they are. I feel like God of War 2018 and going into Ragnarok, like they did such a good job at like setting things up and hinting stuff for a sequel. Like where to immediately you see this stuff like, oh yes, all this stuff they hinted at. Whether it be the 9 realms that they said we're going to all of them this time. They showed the possibility of going to all of these, but they didn't let us. But now it's like, okay, you're going to all of these, and then the stuff with obviously with Freya, and then setting up Thor, and he's going to be one of the main.
Well, I was about to say, honestly, the biggest thing for me that helped set up the sequel is like Mimir's stories when you're going on the boat. Like, you heard so many cool stories about Odin and Thor, but never really got to see them in that game. Like I was so hungry for that. So it's like just those stories and everything have got me like, oh god, like we've heard so much before we even meet these characters, and like seeing Asgard on that thing, it's like I want to see it. I want to go. Let's go.
Yep.
And Mimir is just being a head sitting in your cabin. This is pretty good. It's really funny.
Good shit. Also, Darby, they said this game's going to be the end of the Norse saga.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, that means a lot of shit's going to happen in this game. That means
people
it's
are thinking,
emotional.
this game might be closer to, like, the first game was probably like 25, 30-ish hours, roughly, to kind of go kind of straight through it. People were thinking, this could be closer to like 40 hours to get all the stuff done. And they said a big reason for this is now that games take 4 to 5 years to complete, they don't want to stretch this out.
I'm okay with that. Not everything needs to be a trilogy. It's like if you have a dope story to tell in 2 parts, then go for it.
Kind of leads credence to the potential of that thing they hinted at the end where Kratos dies.
Yeah. Very easily could happen. I'm sure it'll be one of those things that it's like we're all gonna expect it. It'll probably happen, but there'll be some other element to it that we don't expect. So.
Yeah.
But like Last of Us, we just saw is like what I consider a story told in 2 parts. Like there might be another one, but I think this was a pretty complete story there. So that was spectacular. Well, a game series that I can almost promise you will not end in 2 parts.
Spider-Man 2?
Technically, this is already the 3rd part anyway. Spider-Man 2.
Yep.
Because that MCU, that Marvel money makes too much money to stop this anytime soon.
Yep. So yeah, they announced Spider-Man 2, as well as another game we'll get to after this one, from Insomniac, coming 2023, Darby. So 2 years away, potentially 3, because delays and the like.
Yeah.
But
considering they already released 2 other games from this studio ultimately, and they have 1 other one, they just announced like, geez, they're doing stuff all over the place. But this is Sony definitely doing the announcing something super duper early type thing, which, I mean, whatever. For Spider-Man, it's something we know is coming. I'm not too mad about it.
Well, and especially since, I'll just mention it here. Wolverine was announced, also from Insomniac. I think I'm more okay with Spider-Man 2 being announced here, because it like me and some other people like were immediately like after seeing that Wolverine announcement like, okay, what does this mean for Spider-Man 2? So announcing right away and saying it's 2020, they're like, okay, Wolverine's just a separate team and within Insomniac, we good.
Yeah, being
So
made pretty much
I
at the
think
same time.
that's fine. So I will say that Spider-Man trailer started and I was thinking it was Infamous and was slightly bummed when I saw the Spider-Man emblem, but then got excited.
That's the second damn time they've teased, they've like pranked Infamous fans because the Miles Morales also started with a bunch of electricity.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he does have electric powers, but still.
Yeah, but that's
That
twice
goes to
that
my heart.
we've seen electric powers before any Spider-Man reference.
Yeah,
I mean,
shame.
yeah.
But also in Spider-Man 2, we are, they hinted at it or they've been hinting at it the last 2 games. We are getting Venom, voiced by Candyman's Tony Todd.
Tony Todd, what a name.
Yep. As well as Kraven the Hunter, doing the monologue for that whole thing. Getting multiple villains in again.
Yeah, I mean the first one had an absurd amount of villains, but just some of them had obviously had second stage.
I obviously look at the villains as like with this game kind of a tier kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean that's what the first
Mr.
one was.
Negative was like the big villain, but then relegated to a smaller villain pretty quickly. The Doc Ock kind of took his place. I imagine this is going to be kind of similar, where it starts out with Kraven, then kind of ends with Venom.
Oh, and it maybe potentially ends with Green Goblin instead or something, because like we definitely have been hinting. I mean, because we expect that Venom is Harry Osborn, so I highly doubt that his dad's not coming into this.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be set up for next one.
I know we talked about this, but I kind of forget where you stand. How do you feel about Harry being Venom?
I like it.
People mix.
I think people hold the like comic canon lore way too like close to your chest. Do you realize how many different versions of these stories that we've seen? Like, I think it's cool when they mix it up and they like this character is like this like villain or hero whatever is being played by a different character in the universe. I think that's kind of cool. I think it keeps things fresh. It makes things.
Yeah,
I think
I agree. I agree with that. I like I mean, it could be a swerve and they do something different, which would be fine. But as far as like what they're kind of showing us, yeah, I like this, and at least in universe what they've set up so far, it makes sense for what it is doing. As far as Harry being Venom, and I think that could be a cool little twist on it. But before that, I expect there to be a symbiote possessed Spider-Man fight where you're probably playing as Miles and fighting Peter.
Yeah.
Which would be very cool. I am very curious, like how they're going to structure this game between the 2 Spider-Men, because they've set them both up at this point, and kind of more on an equal footing at this point.
Yeah, I'm expecting. I mean, you're bouncing between them in different missions or different parts of the game is what I'm expecting, and they probably will have different skill trees.
I wonder if it's going to be like a GTA 5 situation where obviously they're going to be story missions where you have to play as one, but I wonder if like when you're in the open world you can kind of switch between them freely.
Yeah, maybe. I just wonder would they go to the crazy effort? Like, are they as batshit as insane as like Rockstar? Who? All right. Spoilers for Red Dead Redemption 2. Leave if you don't want spoilers for Red Dead Redemption 2. Just skip ahead a little bit. The fact they recorded lines for both Arthur and John for like fucking everything.
True.
Because you could go back and do it. Like, that is insane. I don't think too many other like developers would make 2 different scenes for all this stuff or whatever. So like, I think there might be some elements of character switching, but I also think you're gonna be locked in for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they'll both get equal billing for the most part.
I agree. They're both Spider-Man, so.
Yeah. Yep. And yeah, I imagine they're gonna play differently, so there's gonna be like different gameplay parts where it's like you need Miles' powers for this, or you need Peter's powers for this other thing.
Yeah, and I like it. Let's see. I like how immediately they show like to help make Peter different from Miles, but not making him inferior. They pretty much showed like the iron spider leg things. He's gonna have those.
Yeah. He got
So
his
I think
MCU
that's a
weird
good way.
spider suit.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah, and I'm excited for like a character like Kraven the Hunter. I think that's just kind of a fun thing where it's not someone just being evil or anything. It's just someone like, yo, I just really love the sport. You guys seem to be very powerful, so I'm just gonna try to hunt you. Okay? Okay, cool.
That's never been my favorite type of character, but it can be done. It can be done. I think it works as a minor villain who gets cast aside. Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's gonna happen. I think it's just a fun. It'll at least be a. I trust the something. I think it'll be just a fun little different thing for like these kind of games, in this.
That's just like one of my least favorite villain motivations is I need someone who can challenge me. I'm just like, no, I'm just too powerful. No one can beat me. I'm sad. Like that's always been kind of boring to me, but it can be done well.
Yeah.
But that's not all Insomniac's doing. These crazy bastards. They're also making a Wolverine game.
The biggest surprise of the showcase, easily.
Easy.
No one knew this was coming. There are absolutely no rumors about it, which I am all for. Just being actually surprised about an announcement at this point it's kind of rare, Darby.
It is. It certainly is. And this was. I mean, like, there's. Honestly, even if you had stopped me and said, hey, Insomniac's making another Marvel game with a different property, who is it? Even though Wolverine is one of the most popular Marvel characters out there, I probably would not have guessed him anywhere near the top just because of how pushed out of the limelight X-Men and Wolverine have been for so long. You just don't really think about them in that way anymore. But I think it's a fascinating choice and everything. And I think immediately you can see how this is going to be different from Spider-Man. In fact, if it did feel the exact same as Spider-Man, I think that they did something wrong, because
I agree.
Yeah, I think the Wolverine in general, I think it should be probably a more mature, darker story. I think it should be more of like a linear thing where you're traveling to a bunch of different environments in a story or whatever, and just like I don't know, I expect to compare it to things. I expect more Last of Us than Spider-Man.
I agree. Yeah, they said. I'm going to mention this first part because this is the Miles Morales team, so people were wondering about the size of this game. This is going to be a quote-unquote full-size game, more akin to the Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 than Miles Morales. And they said it is going to have a mature tone, which is a very vague thing, so who knows what that means. But I am hoping it does go for that M rating. I don't necessarily need to have blood and swear words all over the place, but I also, because it is a Wolverine solo movie, want them to be able to kind of go there when it is appropriate.
Right, I agree. Yeah, not to be just throwing it around everywhere, but it's like to tell an effect. I mean, look at Logan. I mean, Logan was rated R, and I mean, like, yeah, it had some crazy violence and everything, but I think it was also rated R because, like, it needed to go to some pretty heavy subject matter, and the movie is fantastic, so.
Yeah. So I'm thinking more of that, yeah, and I agree with you about the maybe, not obviously 1-to-1, but closer to The Last of Us in structure than Spider-Man. I do want we'll have to see what exactly it is. My opinion can change on this, but I think it might be best if it's kind of more of a linear thing with, occasionally a kind of more wide open area, road trip style thing. It's the set pieces and all that.
Yeah, I think so.
You might go full Last of Us and have X-23 palling around with you.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, It's gonna be a lot to speculate about until we actually see it, but
which is apparently very early in the development, which makes sense as Miles Morales came out last year. So this is a ink just dried kind of announcement.
Yeah, which I mean, it is. I mean, it's exciting to know that that's coming. So I can put that out of my brain for a while. Just be excited for when it comes.
Yep. One thing before we move on from this game, Darby. Something I've seen people talk about. I'm curious your take on it. What do you think about all the Marvel game announcements recently? Because we've gotten like 4 or 5 of them in the last couple months.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the most surprising. It's just that like they started having success. I mean, I think it was obviously Marvel Games, like from the Disney side, was taking this like let's just give a bunch of properties to like a bunch of different really good studios, and we're not going to try to make this big super universe. We're just going to try to make good games and just see where this goes. And Returns, I think overall really good. Obviously, Avengers, the Crystal Dynamics is a bit of a misstep, but like I think Spider-Man has made a lot of money with this, and so it makes sense to see that expanding more. And I mean, it's the same thing with all of these with superhero movies taking over the film industry. It's simultaneously they are very fun to watch, and they're like I love them, and I hope they keep coming. It's like they're nice, like they're just fun movies, and these are fun games. I do hope that we don't just get like kind of an oversaturation in the video game market as well. I am kind of happy that this is just another Insomniac Studios kind of doing this rather than like now Sucker Punch is also making a Marvel thing. And Naughty Dog's making a Marvel thing. That'd be like, okay, all right, well, it's like that would.
Like I said, I bring it up because something people have been talking about and kind of mixed on. I'm kind of thinking where I don't think we're anywhere close to an oversaturation point at this point.
No.
Like I think you have a much better argument for sure when talking about movies and video games because, well, there's just a lot more video games out there.
Yes.
But as far as like the video games we got so far, like I agree with you 100% that it makes like hearing Sony's doing a Wolverine game made me feel better that it's just it's another game from Insomniac, partly because I know they can make a great superhero game, and so it's kind of contained to kind of one studio and not Sony becoming a Marvel factory. If that started happening, okay, that'd be one thing. And depending on how Wolverine shakes out and all that, it is different than Spider-Man. Then it's like, well, compared to the movies, the games might just be very different. Because Spider-Man's very different from Avengers. Guardians of the Galaxy might be very different from both. Looking to be very different from both of those. Midnight Suns, another one recently announced. It's very different from all of the other ones.
Yeah, and I think that's nice because it does give the Marvel video games like a different identity than the MCU stuff. And they even said, I think they said Wolverine is going to be standalone. It's not connected to Spider-Man or anything else.
Well, I will say the quote was kind of a weird one where I've seen people interpret it both ways. Kind of. So it's kind of when I read it, it made it sound like they are like in the same universe. But I also can see why you interpreted the way you have.
Interesting. I'd have to see it again. I thought they just said like it was a standalone or something. I don't know, but yeah, I'd have to see it again. But I mean, yeah, either way, in general, I mean, the grand scheme of things, the Midnight Suns and all this other stuff, like Marvel just seems to be like branching out, just like letting everyone have a swing at it. With also the Marvel Ultimate Alliance with Nintendo, all these other things. Like, I think that is a smart way of doing this initially, but I do think it could start to change, and I think especially you have Spider-Man and Wolverine, are obviously like Spider-Man is the most successful thing. I don't know. It's interesting. It's something to keep an eye on. I also agree we are not at the oversaturation point, even close to it yet. But I do think it's a conversation worth having for just looking in the future. But
And as long as they try to keep the characters different, like if like Iron Man's in every single one of these games, okay, then yeah. But if it's mainly different characters between them and different vibes and stuff, then I feel like that'll be less of a problem.
I agree.
Let's see. All right, Darby. Another game. It's not a new announcement. It's a game we have seen somewhat recently that people are talking about as one of the bigger things. Forspoken.
Yeah.
Got a little story trailer, and me and you seem to be more positive on it than a lot of people I've seen.
Apparently, yeah. I actually thought this was a really nice trailer for it. I mean, I've been interested in this game. I think every time that it's been shown, but like, This one did a lot for me. I think this game just seems fun. Like the story and vibe and everything. Obviously, it's straight up an isekai.
Let's go.
The girl who just lives in New York gets teleported into this fantasy world for no apparent reason, and the story seems very. You could obviously already chart like where this is going because she's talking about like she's gets bullied and stuff in her normal life and doesn't know how to like better herself in her life or whatever, and then she's gonna go through this whole crazy fantasy adventure and then take that character growth back to New York and improve in her normal life. Yeah, it's a
never a new story.
Exactly. It's a story that's been done 1,000 times before, but it's a fun story. That's a fun thing. And she just immediately in this one trailer, it seems to have so much personality. And one thing, I mean, I'll say if you agree, I've seen people say like, "Oh, she just seems so fake" or whatever, and like, especially people were talking about the use of swearing being like unnatural. I went back and listened to it. I'm like, really? Like she says, "I'm riding a freaking dragon" or something once, and it was like she like swore 2 or 3 times.
The weirdest thing about that one, she didn't went straight up to say "fucking dragon."
You're right, yeah, it's almost weirder. But I was like, she's like a like teenage to 19-year-old, whatever.
21 is the age I
21,
saw.
perfect, yeah. She talks exactly what I think a 21-year-old would talk about. As a 25-year-old, I'm very around that age. I was like, I don't know. I think this sounds very natural. It did not sound forced to me at all.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that people have been on this is the writing, and I'm with you where I don't get why people are so open arms, like saying like this is just absolutely terrible.
I think that she stands out as a character way more than a lot of AAA games I see. Like I immediately was like, no, I like her. I like her vibe. Like.
And we mentioned it before. It's just nice to see, especially from a Japanese developed game, just like a non-stereotypical black woman, or just a black woman in general, as a protagonist.
No, she feels like a natural like American black woman to me. Like which is that's not something I would have from Square Enix that was like a guaranteed thing for sure.
And they went on until talking about we can get a little more to the gameplay after this, but some of the people behind the game, they said Bear McCreary, who worked on God of War 2018 and The Walking Dead, is part of it, and Gary Shyman from BioShock are composing for the game. Yeah, that's some good stuff right there.
Yeah.
Not that I doubt, music from a Square Enix Japan developed game even
right.
this is actually a weird project because the writers are Gary Whitta from Rogue One, a Star Wars story, Amy Henning from the Uncharted series, and as well as Allison Reimer and Todd Stashwick. So it's like it's being developed by the eastern side of Square Enix, but they're getting Western writers to it, which are in composers to it, which is interesting.
Very interesting. It seems like that's the type of thing that could lead to a very disjointed project with people from different sides of the globe and very different backgrounds doing all this. But if it works right, then you could just have a very interesting game that has the best of both worlds. It's like, it could go either way for sure. But
it could be interesting. Like it's kind of funny. Like people talking about the writing because this seems like. Again, we'll have to see how it turns out. Something that people want because people love a lot of times the vibes of the like Japanese RPGs a lot of times, but absolutely loathe the writing.
I mean, that's me a lot of times.
And kind of wish it was more Western.
I feel that sometimes. There are definitely times where like I really like. I mean, even in Final Fantasy, there's times where like I like the world more than I do the writing. I mean, Tales is another good example. Where like I like the world, I even kind of like the characters, but like just the prose and the dialogue like rip me out of the experience about like every 20 lines. Like, that is definitely a true thing. Where it's like, yeah, this does visually kind of look like a Final Fantasy Eastern Square type thing, but reads and sounds and dialogue feels like a almost Naughty Dog-esque game. It's a cool combination, And yeah, gameplay wise, obviously is the biggest thing where it's like, we have to wait to fully see what it feels like, but it's beautiful, and I mean, it looks like what I expect, kind of like a linear over the shoulder combat thing with, I guess, maybe just a lot of range stuff with the magic. I mean, they said that she has no weapon, it's just all magic. I mean, it looks interesting. It looks very Tomb Raider Uncharted, but with like maybe some more actiony combat rather than like shooting. It kind of looks like an interesting blend of some stuff, you know.
Mhm.
I'm intrigued. Traversal also looks very fun.
Yes. Coming out spring 2022, so got an internal delay at some point, based on what we know. Finally, the last big announcement for it, for this Sony showcase is Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic remake, being developed by Aspyr Studios, and it's a PS5 time console exclusive, and despite being originally exclusive to Xbox.
Interesting.
Indeed.
Well, that's a very big game to be getting remake. Remakes are hot these days. I wonder if this is going to be a Final Fantasy VII remake level of like we are just redoing everything.
Yeah, not sure. They haven't yet really talked about the game. Like I think the original was like a turn-based style thing. So it'd be very interesting on how they mix that up. Apparently, they're getting a lot of the original voice actors and stuff, and the team does have at least some original people from their who originally worked on the game, the original one.
I'd be interested to see what people exactly want from that. I mean, the word remake can mean so many things. So many things have remake attached to it that's just like, preserving the original, and it's just like an extra, coat of paint on it. Or it can be Final Fantasy VII, or it's just a new game. So, and I haven't played the game, obviously, so.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to
because I won't go into it. Dark and I had a funny conversation on the Retro Friends house about if it's an MMO or not.
I just knew there was an MMO. I thought this was
no. After talking about it and us looking at stuff, I think your confusion made sense. It wasn't. I'm not bringing this up the dog on you. It was just funny. The whole conversation was. I think it was a fair thing to be confused about.
Oh boy.
All right. All right. There are other announcements. We'll skip those for now. I will say Ghostwire Tokyo had an interesting trailer. And RIP Deathloop trailers.
It's finally gone, then watch it be there now. Do you mind if we maybe skip the next two or whatever and just go to Nickelodeon because my throat's hurting?
Alrighty.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna skip over Epic v Apple. That's probably for the best. When I must say, Switch got a price drop in Europe and UK. Okay,
go get it.
It's not happening here.
Go get it. Europeans.
For Nickelodeon All-Stars, I will mention this real quick because it just happened right before this stream. THQ Nordic 10th Anniversary stream. Mm-hmm. It had a good many games announced there, but there are only two that I've, know anything about. Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed is announced. A remake of Destroy All Humans 2, so they're continuing that trend.
How many Destroy All Humans did they make originally?
I don't know, 4 or 5 at least.
Oh, jeez.
I think. I might be wrong on that. Yep, and apparently it has split-screen co-op, which is cool.
Hey.
And they also announced SpongeBob SquarePants: The Cosmic Shake, which had a very interesting trailer, but one of the trailers where they did not actually tell what the game was, so people were wondering some people wondering if it was a rhythm game, which is fair.
Yeah, very music-themed trailer. So.
Yep. It is a 3D platformer. It is pretty much the spiritual successor to Battle for Bikini Bottom.
Hell yeah! Well, I might be interested in that, depending on how modernized it is.
Same, and they part of the thing they do that is you go to these different worlds and you have different costumes, like the caveman SpongeBob and the snail SpongeBob and all that.
Yeah, I did read that they said they were going through dimensional portals like Ratchet and Clank. So
yeah, and they also talk about. This is going to be voiced by all the original voice actors, which is, kind of big, because I think since the original Battle for Bikini Bottom in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie game, Clancy Brown, who voices Mr. Krabs, hasn't really been involved in this stuff because he's just so damn expensive. And there's going to be 101 songs from the series, including Sweet Victory.
Woo-wee.
Take that, Nickelodeon All-Stars Battle Royale. Or Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, which we're going to talk about right now.
You said the All-Star Battle Royale. Now I'm sad.
Yes. No, Dari, since the last time we had a podcast, this game got a lot of new information
That
and
it did.
footage.
That it did.
Yeah, because we technically skipped last week, so we actually got the first gameplay footage of the game and learned some of it, mechanics and all that. So getting to that before we get into all the other sweet stuff, some stuff that stand out. We knew it had wave dashing. It is a fast-looking game.
Very damn fast.
Yeah, Super Smash Bros. Melee, which I know has some people salivating. For grabs, you can grab people and move them around like you're fucking Donkey Kong. Every character, you can also grab projectiles and throw those back at people.
Yeah.
Everyone can reflect projectiles with their strong attacks. Your dash attack can cancel into anything.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, yeah. Well, I'll let you go ahead. No.
Oh yeah, I mean, before we get into other stuff, that's like the main gameplay things that really stood out to me. Like, so specifically, that's easy to say. Like, this game looked crazy.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's Smash, but we're gonna say yes to more things. Like, Smash, but we're like gonna go a little crazy with it as far as.
Yeah, I think it's good because in interviews and stuff, they've said when talking to Nickelodeon, like the Ludosity wanted this to be like competitive from the get-go, and Nickelodeon was apparently fully supportive and agreed on that from the very beginning. It's like, yes, make this competitive. Sure, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be bad at this game. Like, I think y'all or I think Alex is gonna beat us more. I think like Smash 4 is decently even with us. I think the melee type. I might be wrong, but like I know I will not be good with it because it looks very damn fast. I don't think it's gonna be like as beginner accessible or whatever as Smash is. Not that it I think if you're playing with your friends, you're gonna be fine or whatever. But it's definitely gonna be, if someone's good, they're gonna be able to clown you.
Yeah, especially since from a party standpoint, this game doesn't have any items. I know that's a positive for a lot of people, but be cool to have the option kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's what they wanted for this game, and they do have crazy and nice stages. Like I've been impressed with the way the stages actually look when I'm able to look at them for more than 2 to 3 second cuts.
Yeah.
The stages actually look pretty nice and have a bunch of crazy things going on. Like the Love World stage has like a Ferris wheel, like it has a platform in the middle, but then it has like the Ferris wheel with platforms going around it, and then roller coaster tracks in the bottom with the actual roller coaster going up and down on it. And then obviously a couple stages that are just competitively viable. Like they pretty much model those after some of the top competitive Smash stages purposefully.
Yeah, it really does seem like they just got they were able, they wanted to make the Melee the viable modern Melee game that Nintendo will not let anyone play. They wanted to make that, and they were able to get a pretty big parent company, whatever, who just kind of gave them a blank check and was like, "Yeah, sure, we don't care."
Yeah,
we're not gonna have these weird boundaries where it's like you can't make this competitive game. They're like, whatever. They're probably like, we don't expect this thing to make a lot of money anyway. Fuck it, whatever.
Which was obviously true because the way the marketing has gone for this game and has done a 180 since pretty much this video dropped. Because it's because it was pretty silent for a while. Because Ludosity might have saw it coming, but I know they don't have the most say on it. But I don't think Nick and Game Mill, the publisher for it, saw it coming. Because just when this video dropped, they just started. They're releasing videos about every day at this point. There's been 5 character gameplay videos in the past week.
Good.
Going through them, so they're going ham on the marketing at this point, which is really good. And as well as some other things. We'll move on to that stuff after a couple of gameplay things. I know people are talking about the voice acting in an interview thing. I'm going to reference for some other things later. They do say they're looking into that. pretty much they didn't have the budget for it, so hopefully Nickelodeon or Game Mill or whoever will give the okay on that, give them the money for that, because I know that's a big thing for a lot of people and like music and all that. But I think that there is like fan service in this, kind of like similar to Smash when it comes to the move set and the stuff the moves are referencing, and within the taunts and the victory and defeat poses. Because it still references the memes and all that kind of stuff in fan favorite moments. So I think they have that stuff in mind, but unfortunately, they don't have the budget to go as far as they could with a lot of the stuff, like especially the voice lines and all that.
Yeah, be interested to see how much this game changes post launch, if it just sells like way better than expected.
Well, I've mentioned this comparison before, and after seeing some like the interview and stuff and developers talking about this, I think this comparison's even makes more sense. Power Ranger Battle for the Grid, which also I don't have it in here. Just got a season 4 DLC trailer, which the character look insane. But enough of that. They talked about, some people have looked at the animation, like, yeah, some of this animation, some of it looks really good, but some of it kind of looks, kind of cheap because, again, this is a budget thing. The developers have been very talkative on Discord and very open to talking about this stuff. They're like, yes, we hear you. We're going to look at, if not day one after the game launches, adding, changing and adding animations to characters and fixing some of that stuff and looking at the music and the voice acting and all that. Which Battle of the Grid did the exact same thing. They added actual like animation and stuff to characters after the game launched, as well as voice acting.
That's wild.
Yeah. So as far as other things, I think I mentioned stage theory before, where it looks like each character has a home stage. So like we have 3 avatar stages, so it looks like we're getting 3 avatar characters. That is pretty much confirmed because in these specific character videos, they mention at the end, like, and this is SpongeBob stage, and this is Patrick stage. So that's pretty much happening. We're getting 3 avatar characters. Let's fucking go.
Let's go, baby.
Speaking of characters, they said we are getting 20 characters at launch. Right under that 22 that people have been talking about, like including me going around. That's partly because it's like the final 2 are not done yet. And they are going to come in an update after launch. It sounds like those are free.
Nice.
Those final 2. So we got 17 announced right now, with Ren and Stimpy announced this past week, who is a duo character, kind of like Banjo-Kazooie, and is a heavy and looks insane and fun. So I imagine the last 3 are going to be the Avatar characters.
Yeah.
I imagine they're just going to go announce all those at once in the next couple of weeks, because they have finally officially confirmed it's coming out October 5th. So we are
coming right down to the wire.
2.5 weeks away from launch.
That's wild.
Yeah. And they have officially confirmed, because it was questionable when the game first announced, DLC is confirmed. So there's going to be more characters after that 2 character update.
Hell yeah. I mean,
I am very excited. So
at this point, I expect this game to sell fairly well. I mean, like, at least... Also, like compared to what was probably projected for them,
I think so too. I think I definitely, like I've mentioned, they did not expect this kind of fan reaction overall, and expect all the big Smash players and YouTubers to be talking about this as much as they are. And like even Melee pros are very excited for this. They're like gushing over the mechanics for this game. Obviously, we need to actually play the game and see how it feels before we can, like, okay, this is going to be actually a competitively viable game. But out of all the Smash inspired games we've been getting over the last however many years, this seems like the best to succeed, probably from its like gameplays look really good, and as well as like Smash, it actually has a great pool of like iconic characters.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean it's one of those that actually has a chance of taking some part of that Smash success for their own. I mean, there's things like, and I love it and fully support it, but things like that indie project that you kickstarted.
Yeah.
I forget the name of Frame Makers. Yeah, it's gonna be very cool, but like it kind of, I feel like, has a ceiling by no fault of their own, that it's just with the indie game thing or whatever, that it's like probably not gonna get above. This is the type of thing that I actually think could like sell over 1 million and like actually have like a decent casual following because of it has that license. It has that license that Smash also has, you know.
And even if like this game doesn't meet everyone's expectations, like with voice acting and stuff, again, I think the interest in it is way above expectations. So like the potential of a sequel, like especially if it does well right off the gate, like after DLC, and they get to that point where they're making a sequel, like that could be crazy.
And if it
Like,
weirdly
that could be a crazy jump.
if it weirdly becomes like a big part of its ongoing fan base becomes a competitive esport type market, that's like wild and crazy, but that could happen. You know,
I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility this could be at EVO next year.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
I think it does have that possibility, especially since I think it'd be nice to have a platform fighter there that's not a Smash game. Like,
Yeah.
have that
it would
along
be.
Ultimate. Well,
For sure.
also, especially if we're still in, hopefully not COVID times, it actually having good netcode.
Mm-hmm.
So that's rollback. So
Doing everything
obviously,
right.
as people could tell, I'm excited for the game, so I'll be talking about it when more information comes out. And obviously when it comes out, which is pretty soon. All right, Darby, let's move on. We got a couple more things to talk about, just NPDs and other news. We're out of here.
Yeehaw.
All right, Darby. Yeah, I think we didn't talk about last month's NPDs because of... I think we just skipped the week that they came out. But let's get into it, Darby.
Let's.
As far as hardware, let's see here. Hardware dollar sales gained 45% when compared to last year. 45% higher, which I don't think is that crazy considering, PS5 and Series X and S's and all that.
True,
This is the highest totals achieved in August month since 2008.
Ooh,
and the third highest August month total in history.
Wow.
Year-to-date hardware spending has increased 49% when compared to the same period in 2020. Let's see. Nintendo Switch was the best-selling hardware platform in units during both the August month and year-to-date, while PlayStation 5 leads both time periods in dollar sales. And after 10 months in the market, PlayStation 5 remains the fastest-selling PlayStation platform in U.S. history. Also, I usually forget and bring it up reading a couple things. This all comes from Matt Piscatella from the NPD group. All right, Darby, let's get into those top 20-ish rankings. Obviously, we won't go through all of them. We'll just talk about the main ones, but let's get into it. Darby, what do you think number one selling video game in dollar sales for the month of August was in the U.S.?
Well, this link says Madden in it.
Don't look at the damn link.
I'm sorry.
Yes, it was Madden.
Madden? Okay.
Madden don't look at it anymore. Madden was the best-selling game of August, and this is the 22nd consecutive year that Madden has been its best-selling title in its release month.
Damn.
Yep. Dari, what do you think number 2 was? It's not a new game. In last month, its rank was 110.
Whew. I'm trying to think.
So it's a game that probably got a new version out. A very popular game from a big console manufacturer.
Is it like a Last of Us PS5 thing or something? I don't know, probably not.
Close. Not Last of Us, but, similar kind of thing. Also released last year. Roughly the same time. This company made your favorite raccoon game.
Okay, wow, Ghost of Tsushima, all the way number 2.
You jump from 110 to number 2 because of the director's cut.
Okay, I thought the director's cut was longer ago than that.
Nah, they've just been talking about it forever. Feels like.
Yeah. Wow, that game is popular.
Yes. Let's see. Number 3 was Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Okay, that's, it's staying there. It's not a surprise. Number 4, Darby. It is a PC game. It is a game that you, I believe, drafted for Fantasy Critic.
Humankind.
Yes.
I didn't think that game would actually be popular. I still don't even really know what it is.
Just a Civ-like game. Like
Wow.
Civilization.
That's pretty high.
Yeah, it ranked number 1 amongst tracked PC titles in August, while placing 4th overall and obviously overall selling chart. Humankind currently is the 5th best-selling tracked PC title for 2021.
Damn. Well,
that is a win for Civ games.
Yep. There you go.
Unfortunately, not a win for anime.
And I don't know if
Ghost of Tsushima is a win for anime.
I don't know if it was a big enough win for my fantasy league.
Yeah, I don't know what reviews did for it. You are beating me currently, last I checked.
Oh.
But I think you also had 3 more games that were reviewed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Number 5 was Marvel Spider-Man's Miles Morales. That game has had legs.
There's Spider-Man legs. Spider legs.
Yep. All 15 of them. That's how many spiders have, right?
Yep. Nailed it.
So 15 months on the chart. Got it. Number 6. Well, speaking of legs, Mario Kart 8.
Jesus Christ. Yep.
Number 7, dropping from number 1 from last month, The Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword.
I didn't even realize it was number 1.
Yep. Oh yeah, because we didn't talk about it last month. 8 was Minecraft. 9 was Assassin's Creed Valhalla. 10 MLB The Show. 21 and nothing too crazy for the rest of that. Yep, just mainly a bunch of Nintendo games after that. As well as like Mortal Kombat, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, and Ratchet and Clank.
Just take from this that Nintendo prints money, and that's
yeah. I think literally half of the top 20 are Nintendo games.
Good God.
And here we are for the 2021 year to date top selling games of the year.
Hooey.
All right, Dari, I'm gonna quiz you on this. Let's see how much you remember from the past month.
Is number 1 the Call of Duty from the previous year, Cold War?
Yes.
Okay.
Number 2, Dari, what do you think it is?
Is it already Madden?
No.
Okay.
But it is a sports game.
Is it the previous year's NBA?
It is not a previous year. It's a game from this year.
Is it this year's NBA?
No, I don't think that's... that came out this month.
Okay. Wait, it's FIFA. Whatever. The previous year's FIFA.
Nope.
There's another sports game that's up that high?
MLB The Show.
Oh, fuck. Yep. Multi-platform. Makes sense.
Number 3, Darby.
The previous year's NBA.
It's a game that released this year and it's not a sports game. You're not gonna get it. Let's just end this. It's Resident Evil Village.
That's actually pretty high. I was gonna guess that Resident Evil was like 6 or 7 or something.
Number 4 is Madden NFL 22.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, dropping down 1 spot, Super Mario 3D World, baby.
Woo!
6, Spider-Man Miles Morales. Surprised not higher, honestly. 7, Mario Kart 8, eternally on this top 10 chart. Number 8, Monster Hunter Rise. 9, Minecraft. And 10, Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Mm-hmm. Pretty strong up there for Resident Evil.
Yep.
I mean, they're obviously going to fall a little bit, but that's still impressive.
Yep, doing good so far. Wait, Dario, let's end this with some other news.
Other news.
Jake from State Farm is in NBA 2K22.
Capitalism was a mistake. We've gotten too far.
We haven't gone far
I don't
enough.
think we can't steer back. We're heading for the iceberg. It's too late.
Yep.
Oh god. Eventually we're just gonna get a fucking KFC movie. We're gonna have a Wendy's RPG. I think Wendy's straight up did release a tabletop RPG game.
Yeah.
At some point, our entertainment and advertising is just gonna merge.
I can't wait for the McDonald's Cinematic Universe or some shit.
Dude, it could honestly fucking happen before we die. They might at least try it. There'll be some Taco Bell movie, and at the very end of it, fucking Ronald McDonald would come out of, like, they pull up and say, "I'm bringing you into the quick service initiative."
Not fast food, quick service.
Oh, they can't, Jeff. They never call it fast food, Jeff.
True.
It's quick. There are quick service restaurants, and they're official.
Yeah, true.
PR stuff. Yeah, we're in hell, Jeff. We know it. We're in hell. Yeah. Move on.
KOTOR is out making a new card-based RPG.
Yeah. Will it? It'll still have scantily clad women in it, right?
I mean, what are they going to put on the cards?
Exactly. Okay. Just making sure.
Well, I feel existential dread playing this card game.
Both of those. Scantily clad women and existential dread. That's the KOTOR guarantee.
Yep. Alright, let's talk about Bayonetta real quick. You know, the game everyone's waiting for. Bayonetta's voice actress is worrying fans about her being into, because she is kind of hinting at, but she says she can't say straight out because of NDAs or whatever, that she may not be into. It's weird.
I just want to know what's happening with that game, you know?
Yeah, and Platinum Games has come out and said that, I think they've said this before, that the announcement for the game, like, talking about it's not up to them, it's up to Nintendo.
Something happened, clearly.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
This game was announced almost 4 years ago.
Good God.
So.
Hey.
And finally, Nintendo Switch's latest firmware update finally adds Bluetooth audio support.
Thank God. I'm happy about that. I don't have to have any fucking dongle or anything, do I? I can just do it.
As far as I know, you don't.
Right.
I guess it might depend on the Bluetooth thing, but yeah, I think there's just this thing in the menu or something you do.
Well, I've had numerous times where I was like in a car or somewhere where I'm like around people and I don't want to play things out loud, but I just have my Bluetooth headphones and I don't have like the cord with it, so I'm like, well, I guess I'll just play in silence. You know. So, I'm happy.
Yep.
And that's a podcast. See, COVID can't hold us down. We still roll on and persevere and talk about anime and video games because that's our default state of being. And thank you so much for joining us. I had a lovely time. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Darby.
We should be back. We're kind of off schedule at this point, obviously. We're recording this on a Friday when we kind of missed the week before. So we'll get back on some sort of schedule after I shake this daggum virus. Yeah, we'll be on.
Wait, Darby, breaking news. It's not really breaking, but it happened today. There's a Billie Eilish pack being added to Beat Saber.
Ooh, that's actually hot. That's a hot announcement. Whenever I'm not like struggling to breathe, I might do that.
All right.
I think if I tried to play that right now, it might kill me. So we're not gonna do it now, but I will pay for that. Okay.
All right.
Yes. All right. Thank you guys so much. Bye.
Bye.